All right, and we're live today on Friday afternoon, the 13th, and this is the RSP Film Room. I'm Matt Waldman, your host, and today we are going to be featuring Tyler Lockett, the Kansas State wide receiver and kick returner, and we're going to have the person who actually wanted to have Tyler Lockett featured in the RSP Film Room is my guest, Kyle Posey, who is with SB Nation and Bolts from the Blue. Kyle, it's really a pleasure to have you. I've seen you on, Twitter, and we've interacted on Twitter quite a bit, and I've read your articles, and I always laugh because whenever I'm on Twitter and I'm writing something or have just written something, usually I'm writing something, but I find that you and I tend to be featuring the same players on our blogs around the same time. Like it's not like it's like within hours of each other. I look up and I go, yeah, Kyle just did a piece on this. It's about time that now that he's put up this piece, that maybe I should be posting a piece on the same player. So welcome, Kyle. It's good to have you. If you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where they can find you, and in terms of all that.
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me. Just like you said, boltsfromtheblue.com, a Chargers affiliate for SB Nation. Big football fan like the rest of us. I've been around the game for a while. Played all throughout high school, played a little bit in college, coaching now in high school. Just very involved. I feel like there's just so much to learn, always learning. And I mean, this whole draft process is like a great way to keep doing that. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bug, and once it bites you, it's kind of hard to get rid of it. So, tell me about how you really got into. How'd you get into writing about the game, and why did that become an interest from a transition of playing the game?
I think writing about first of all, just I started commenting on blogs and Bolts from the Blue, that sort of thing. So you're always reading about football articles. Obviously, as you know, probably you're reading stuff that you see on Twitter. So instead of just commenting on things, I figured I might as well dig deeper and figure out my point of view from these guys. And as you just want to know more and more, you just take notes, you put it down on paper, and that's how I got into writing. The transition from playing to watching wasn't hard. I think the big difference is me playing on the perimeter, so I know more about these smaller guys or skill position guys, and when you look at guys like offensive linemen, that's where the draft process you really get to learn more about these guys. You have no idea dealing with these bigger 300-pound linemen.
Yeah. So how long did you play? I mean, and you played wide receiver, and how long did you play?
Yeah, actually, I played in high school. I played quarterback. I ran basically an option offense. We threw the ball probably like 15 times a game. So, I knew what everyone else's position was. It wasn't very good. So in college, they moved me to safety. The college coach told me I couldn't tackle for crap, so moved me to receiver, and that's where I kind of found my place there. So I played a couple years there. Like you read on these, like you read on Twitter, guys making mistakes. I did some, knuckleheaded things. So that's why I totally understand where all these guys come from. And then, just from there after college, kind of just got my foot in the door in coaching, and just really concentrate on receivers and DBs now.
Well, I would certainly love at some point that we can have a conversation just about the transition that people make as young adults into, throughout this process and what that's like. But we can save that for another time, certainly.
Yeah.
What I would love to know from you, though, Kyle, is if you tell us a little bit about why you chose Tyler Lockett. What's interesting about him as a prospect from what you've seen, and what you want to share with folks that we're going to see a little bit of as a preview to this Baylor game that we're going to watch.
I think Tyler Lockett's a good example of a receiver who, he's 5'9", like 180, so automatically you think, oh, he's a slot receiver. He's a slot receiver who's going to run by guys, but really he's a guy that is a nuanced route runner and can actually make contested catches. and can also show that he can high point passes. So I think he's just kind of breaking the trend of what you normally think about, these smaller receivers.
Okay, great. So without any, without even getting into it any more than what we have, I'll just give you guys, if you're new to the RSP Film Room, a breakdown of what we're going to do. We're going to share the tape from Draft Breakdown of this game. These are cut ups, and if you are on Twitter, look at social media at all, or just on the internet and a draftnik, then how valuable Draft Breakdown has been to the media as well as to fans when it comes to being able to check out these prospects. So we're going to use that. We're often going to watch the film at half speed. We're gonna just break down what we see. It's just basically you getting a bird's eye view of two guys watching film together and commenting about the players' prospects, what we're seeing technique-wise, questions that we might ask each other, as well as any debates that we might have about what we see, in addition to just broader commentary about the game within the scope of what we see from Lockett on the field. So I'm going to go ahead and share this screen and make sure that both Kyle and I can see Tyler Lockett on this, and let me get that going here. Does that work for you, Kyle?
Yep, I'm good on my end.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. I'm going to start off in half speed, and if you tell me it's either still too jumpy or it's too slow, just let me know. All right, we're going to get this going right now. So we're starting off here in Kansas State's pistol set here with a twin to the outside, and we're going to have what we have is a little wide receiver screen. And I think this is a minor thing, and I'm going to just kind of start off with saying, we're watching one game here. I know that Kyle and I have probably watched multiple games of Tyler Lockett, but a lot of what we may comment may be based on we see of one game. So, we're not giving all the time overall draft point, overall conclusions based on his career from one game, but oftentimes we may talk about it as if we're projecting it. If we saw certain habits in this game and they translated to other games, this is where we may lead. So it's just something to to keep in mind as we're talking about this. You like that he catches the ball with his hands. He has that quick mentality, get downhill and finish with low pad level. It's always just nice, sound, fundamental skill there as a ball carrier and player out in space.
Yeah, I think that first screen is a good example of, not like right here, he could easily cut back and go against the grain and try to take more than what's really there, but he just gets upfield and gets yards, So he could have easily cut back and got like -1 by dancing too much.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's another way to emphasize how the short passing game like this is an extension of the running game, and therefore, as an extension of the running game, you want players who exhibit that smart judgment about getting what's available to them, especially in down and distance situations where instead of it, trying to get too much on a 2nd and 5, let's get it so we can have a makeable 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3.
Wow, rough face mask there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a physical, certainly a physical play. He got jerked around right there, and he still almost made the catch. One thing it's also notable, you notice that that he is playing on the outside quite a bit. He plays outside quite a bit in this offense, only 2 plays in, but
yeah, that's going to be a call in his favor most every other time.
Yeah. Yeah, the Baylor opponents certainly there got away with robbery. And when you look at plays like this is a good question to ask, because I think that when folks are new to studying tape, they often know, when should I really get into detail and nitpick certain things, and when shouldn't I nitpick things? And just from your standpoint, when you watch something, say before the face mask, where he He's clearly getting into the body of this defender, which I particularly like when you're trying to sell a route concept, but the defender's sitting on the route still. And then he gives a little bit of, frames a little separation out here. But after the face mask here, do you just discount the fact that this ball gets into his body a little bit with his hands, or do you look at it and say, even so, I would have liked to have seen him execute a little bit differently? I mean, where do you nitpick and where are you not in the scope of a penalty like that?
No, I think it's important to hold him accountable for letting the ball get into his frame, and that's something that you'll probably see over and over when you watch Lockett. He does have a tendency to let balls into his frame, so I mean that's definitely something to nitpick right there. I think he does a good job, like you said, because he breaks the DB's cushion, but since he's squatting on his route, I like how he sort of leaned into him, gave like the little veteran push right there at the top of the route.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. And I would probably tend to say in this situation, I think I'm with you where it's like if you see repeatedly that he's letting the ball into his body, that's an issue. But if I were just right off the bat looking at this clip and didn't know that, I'd probably give him a pass on this particular play if I didn't know. But it would be more for me to watch and continue to see if it's a habit. And as you alluded to, it looks like it is definitely more of a habit with his game. He certainly gets respect from defenders in terms of how the defense wants to play him with off coverage. We're seeing a double move now.
There's a body catch there.
Yeah. And it's interesting though with the double move still. I don't always see double moves that end with it being a shorter intermediate route. So I like that, and that's one of the things that I like about, I don't know if we give credit to Bill Snyder or Bill Snyder's coordinator here, but I've always liked Bill Snyder coach teams. I think they're always very well coached squads, and I kind of like seeing where you got him dropping his hips a little bit here. Maybe he's taking a couple extra steps on selling this fake break. And then moving forward, but you often see a deeper route here, and the fact that they're playing against that tendency by having him break back to the ball rather than going deep is kind of a nice little wrinkle with using a player like Lockett.
It is, and this is where it kind of factors into where we don't know that what the actual route is. Lockett could very well have an option of the double route stop here, so because he knows that he won't be able to break the cushion on the double route, because as we've seen, the DB really respects his speed, so he could have the option to just break it off and come back to the quarterback.
And that's an excellent point, and it also just shows if he does have that option, and it's something that goes into asking those next questions after you see something on tape. Getting a chance. This would be a type of route that could be asked in an interview or during a player visit, and saying, why'd you break off that route? And if he says, well, that's the design play, then whether he was doing performing a task. But if he's making decisions like this and he's being given the opportunity to make that decision, that's a nice play that shows his savvy and understanding his limitations, at least with the way the coverage is playing him.
Absolutely. Looks like a little curl flat combo, and that was a really good job of adjusting to a low pass. And based off the last few catches, he does a good job of extending his arms and extending his hands and catching the ball away from his frame. So you would think based off the last two times he would have dove for it and used his body to catch it, but he catches it low, he adjusts to it, and gets upfield right away to get 3 more yards. So I think that's a good job right there.
Yeah, and I think that's a very difficult play to make as an underrated play. From what I watch, and I'd love to know what you think, do you think that making catches on low targets is probably one of the more underrated plays in terms of difficulty for a receiver?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to stop. You have to regain your momentum. I think going above your head, you get a chance to I guess I don't know really how to explain it, but it's just so much harder as you're running forward to kind of, I guess I would have to do it myself, but kind of bend over and catch the ball like that. That's putting the receiver in a tough position to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is like part shortstop in a way here, where you kind of got to bend
Yeah.
here and get your, I mean, and it's funny when you talk about flexibility because, I wasn't a high-end athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly played my share of sports growing up, and certainly for a good long period of time until I got glued to this chair in this film room as some sort of, either karmic reward or punishment, however you want to discuss it. But even like training, I even 10 years ago when I was doing weight training, I worked with a guy who was an Olympic shot putter. He just happened to be doing training in our area, and so I ended up with him, and we would do squats. He would have us do squats, and he always told me that I had great hips to be able to do squats because they were very flexible, and that a lot of athletes don't have that ability to get full range of motion like that. And you can see that someone like Lockett has pretty good range of motion to get down like that. And there are lots of guys who have some flexibility and have strength, but don't have that range of motion to be able to do something like that. And that's a nice physical skill to have on a wide receiver who's going to have to, run, who's going to want to have to learn to maximize how to run his routes. And something like that is even a telling sign that can be applied elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, his butt was almost on the ground. That's great flexibility.
Now
That would have
there's
been
one of those,
nice.
yeah, it's one of those plays that you mentioned, leading up to this.
Going up and getting it, holding on through contact.
It's a nicely thrown ball for it too.
It is. Yeah, these are the plays that you're gonna have to make in the NFL. You're gonna have to make plays in traffic. You're gonna have to make contested catches, and this is a good example. He goes and gets the ball. I guess he almost fully shields off the DB, but the fact that he high points the pass like that, I think it shows you a good idea of that he can do these things. That he might not always be asked to do them, but he's capable of doing them.
Yeah. And what do you think about this? Because I've heard, like my colleague Sigmund Bloom, often I notice him picking at this point, and sometimes I agree with him, and sometimes we have debates one way or the other about a player. But when you watch a player high point like this, do you at this point he's kind of leaning back towards the ball as the defender's actually attacking, to try and cut off the route. Is this much of a situation where you're looking for a guy, you're hoping that maybe he can at least learn to plant and maybe attack the ball a little bit more with his leap so that he's not giving the defender even the slightest chance to undercut this ball?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about a little bit. I guess he halfway cuts him off. And probably if he takes one more step towards the ball, he gives himself a better chance to where even if he doesn't catch the pass, he sets up the defenders for maybe like a pass interference to be like a step later. So no, that's a good point. That's a fair point at least.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Because I mean, I certainly see that as, I think it's fair in this particular case for sure. I mean, I think there are some cases where you're just like, look, you're just trying to get your hands on the ball. But I think he had plenty of room and opportunity to probably have adjusted a step and a direction on that break to attempt that play. Still a good play.
Little bobble.
Yeah. Is that a function, do you think at all? Maybe that's a function of hand size in any way, shape, or form. I mean, looks like he's catching the point of the ball.
It looks like he attempted to catch a point, and then the little bit of contact caused the juggle at the
Yeah.
top right there.
Yeah, that's true.
So that could be hand size, and his hand size could very well be the reason why he's bracing these balls in on comeback routes. Maybe he doesn't fully trust his hands. I mean, just questions that you need to ask when you're watching these guys.
I like that even as far away as he is, he's showing sideline awareness. Like, I love that he's like completing the drill. We're watching him drag that foot as he gets to the end of this. It was almost,
Oh yeah, that's just
you
that's
can
muscle
tell
memory right there.
that's exactly it. He's so far away from it, but he's still, because he sees the white, it's like he automatically just, muscle memory takes over, and there he is dragging the foot. That just tells you that this is someone who has been working on that in a way, and he almost it's like giving away something that you've worked on, even though the situation really didn't apply for him to have to do it. All right, so we're not seeing an outcome of anything here with a catch, but let's go back to this release here. We got some off coverage,
Little stutter at the top,
little chop with the arm.
and scramble drill. So work back to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Keeps coming. That that pass looked like it was out of bounds. I couldn't really see it.
Yeah, it was short hopped actually by about
Okay.
4 yards. Um, when it looks like, I mean, when you look at something early like this, when do you look at where in a release like this where you feel like he could sell it a little bit deeper, or whether this stutter is something that you would feel would be appropriate in this given situation?
Well, if the initial route was just like a straight nine, like a vertical route, right where he did it because he broke the DB's cushion, I feel like that's a pretty good stopping point, or that's a pretty good time to sort of sell him like you're making maybe an in cut. That's what he was doing right there. So, but it looks like it didn't really have much success there. Maybe a couple steps further than that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd like to see a little deeper. I think it's been something that I've been kind of looking at a lot more recently, and I've been kind of unsure of. And I talked to Brian Flynn, who's a wide receivers coach right now at Villanova, and I've been asking him. He's been very gracious, and I've asked him a few times about releases and the depth of a release where you're trying to sell that vertical a little bit more, and like you said, break that cushion of the defender. And he says oftentimes a very common mistake is maybe breaking it off to one side or the other like this a little bit too early, because if you still have enough cushion that your hands aren't going to be able to be effective with using them, then you're not really going to get the most out of it. Because if you're getting your hands maybe up, if you're how would I put it, if you're getting more depth, maybe taking a longer step where he did that stutter and then maybe stuttering right here, if he was stuttering here, the defender is going to be a little bit closer. He's going to be able to use his hands a little bit more effectively and get on top of the defender sooner. And from what it sounds like, it seems like that's a common issue with even high-end prospects, just because they're so used to being faster, quicker than everybody else, and being confident of being able to get past defenders, even when they're in a situation like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That just the repetition, you have to do it over and over because how many times has Tyler Lockett gone against a guy where he hasn't been able to just run by him? So I mean, you just have to go. He probably just didn't know. I also don't like how he kind of took himself out of the play. Look how close he is to the sideline right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you make a terrific point, Kyle, about how it is about repetition, and that repetition isn't going to come immediately. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that they may show him to do something different, in a workout, and he may execute it well in a workout, but it may not manifest in his game until months later, through really practicing it enough so that he's consistent and it becomes muscle memory, just like that drag at the end of the sideline where he was well inside the boundary but still did it because he saw the white. All right, so we get a little bit of some contact.
Yeah. So it was cover two.
Yeah. Let's see if there's a replay. It looks like we're going to get a replay here coming off of that. Chopping down again, still on the arm. It's just well played by the shallow defender. But I like how he even tries to set up the safety a little bit with a look inside. Well, maybe not too big of a look. I thought it was a little bit more of a look inside, but not really. But still snaps the head around. Does a nice job being prepared to catch a ball here, but yeah, it just didn't work out there. Where, obviously you picked him, you picked Lockett, so I would imagine that you're a guy that isn't so concerned about the size of a player in terms of value in certain aspects. But where are you on the whole idea of about, a receiver being a starting productive player who may not be a certain height or weight or have a certain wingspan? Where are you when it comes to physical requirements of the position?
I guess I don't really mind these 5'9" receivers if you expect them. Like, I guess this probably isn't the greatest example, but I know the Steelers use Antonio Brown as like X, and he as like their X receiver who is lined up on the line of scrimmage, so he's going to be able to, so he's going to have face press coverage, but because he's able to defeat that, it really doesn't matter. So I know people get caught up on like, 6'3" guys can only be like split in receivers and that sort of thing. So I think it's more about the receiver's traits. If he can beat press coverage, and it's too bad that Baylor, we haven't got a chance to see him go against press coverage yet, but just like those traits like that. So if he can defeat press coverage, if he can make contested catches over the middle or outside the numbers like we saw Lockett do, that's much more important than 5'9" or even like speed 4'3" and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, and really when it comes to speed with a wide receiver, it's often about how fast you can stop, not how fast you can run, because
Exactly.
a lot of your breaks are harder breaks, and as long as you can maintain a good pace with your line off of a stem and be able to threaten, get the corner to lose his patience and know that he's going to have to account for where you're heading, the trajectory of what the route looks like. If you can stop fast, you're automatically going to get very strong separation.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's about stopping and starting, stopping or change of direction, getting in and out of your breaks. I like how he avoided contact on the cornerback in the first. He looks like he's running a sail route. Right here, he doesn't get caught up with the corner. He avoids contact, so he's able to get into his route quicker. I think that's important. Just small things like that.
Yeah, he's very active with his hands during his release. That's definitely a promising thing there.
Maybe a quicker pass right here, he has a better chance to catch it. And this is the cut.
Yeah.
Maybe time his jump better there, but he did get the flag, so I guess you can't.
Yeah, exactly. Not bad, not bad. And consistently, he is the outside, he's playing outside, so.
Yeah. Body catch.
So when you have a body catch like that and your back is to a defender on a pass that's kind of low like that, do you still feel like that's something that he should do a better job of extending to make the play, or is he possibly, you have some people who will say on this type of a scenario, if the defender were closer and were trying to deliver a hit, that sometimes using your body to kind of shield the man, there are people who will say that's somewhat acceptable. But I would also think the counterpoint to that is you're just making your body a situation. You're basically making the target a situation where if you let it bounce off your body and then you're getting hit, you're making it even difficult to catch the ball, especially if it rebounds off of you.
Yeah, and also say the cornerback is what like a step closer right now, then he has a chance to come through and rake the ball away from you, or kind of they teach you like come over the top and rake your arms apart. So that you have to get the ball extend it from your frame. It seems like it's pretty it's like a habit for him.
Yeah. But at the same time, you do see him catch a ball with his hands. I mean, Golden Tate was a great example of a player who body caught a lot of passes in any case where he didn't have to extend for the ball. But when he had to extend for the ball, he could do it, as opposed to a guy like, who was in Robert Meacham, who
Yeah.
looked like who tried. I mean, I felt bad for Robert Meacham, and I probably ragged on some of his play a good bit early on in his career, only because he was such a high-end prospect, but he body caught so many passes, and during his senior year at Tennessee, or his last year at Tennessee, he tried to get better using his hands. Like in games, you were seeing him try to catch the ball, and I saw a game against LSU, and Jamarcus Russell was starting in that game. And early in the game, he had multiple drops because he was trying to catch the ball with his hands. And then finally, he just reverted back in the second half of body catching footballs, and he was making plays throughout the rest of the half. But you felt bad because you could see him trying to become a better receiver in that technical respect and just never got over the hump.
Yeah, and it could very well be that Lockett is aware and he knows where the defender is, so he's bracing himself. So I mean, it can definitely go both ways.
Yeah.
Did he get his feet down here? Yep.
Yep.
There's that muscle memory.
Very good
Like the
awareness.
body catch here, I don't think there's anything wrong with the sideline body catch if he knows that he's gonna take a hit, so he's gonna brace himself. And he knows he's already the feet aren't a problem, so he's probably just worried about bracing himself for the catch.
Makes sense. And I think it's good for us to talk about context of when to do certain things, because sometimes I think a lot of our viewers who are new may not understand where a body catch may apply, and then where it's maybe a valid criticism of his game.
Thought that at the top of his stem there, that was a good job where we talked about speed right there. So right here, he avoids the contact with his hands. You said active hands. Right here, 1-2, chop.
Yep.
Chop, chop, separation right there. And it's easy
Comes
money.
back to the ball, too.
Yep.
Yeah. He's attacking it. Very good route. Sitting down on it right there. Very nice.
Yeah, he's a flexible player for sure.
Absolutely. And then talking back to that, you mentioned the chop of a couple of steps here. I think this is a good break with a couple of steps, even a couple of small steps like that. But you often hear someone like maybe Michael Irvin on TV, when he was counseling guys before drafts that you would see for NFL.network, and he'll talk about taking that one hard step into a hard break like this. But I would think that a couple of steps like this sitting down, still a good play. Are you still trying to teach a guy though to do one step? Is that like that extra level of refinement that you're hoping for out of him?
I don't really think so. I don't know if you know him. He's on Twitter a lot too. His name's Coach Vent, and that was my offensive coordinator in college. And that was one of the things he actually told me not to do, was coming out of my brace with that one step.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What did he give an explanation that about that would be, or it was just more of a what's your take on that?
So say I'm running like an in-breaking route, like a dig route. He would rather me plant with my inside foot and give a little fake with my outside foot, so I can get the DB off balance, and also I'm not coming out of my brakes high. So in case he is right there and I don't have any separation, there's a bump at the contact and I'm off balance and I'm rerouted off my route.
I see. Okay. Very cool point.
See how he sinks his hip right there. If he's just one cut, he's still high. And 9 maybe has an opportunity. to kind of give him a shove and knock him off his route.
And it does give him it affords him a little bit more balance coming into that break. And it's a nice tight turn back out there, so yeah, it's good stuff. And I think that's what's fun about this position, and what's interesting for us to have a conversation about is where and when not to nitpick certain points, and kind of adding context to such a variety of techniques at the position. So I mean, it's very nice to hear. It's very nice to hear even variation of saying this is where it's not taught. This is where one step is not taught into a break. This is where multiple steps is ideal.
Yeah, and I wish, hopefully here soon, I'm not sure if we do, we get to see a chance from press coverage, because obviously there's multiple different ways to win from there too.
Yeah, hopefully so. If not, we can take, maybe if we have time, we can take a look at another clip. All right, so just before we go, we'll go on here, but where are you on Lockett as a return specialist? Do you think he has potential there in the NFL to get a foothold early on, and what is it about his return game that you've seen that you like?
Yeah, I think Lockett does a good job of setting up his blockers as a returner. We didn't really get a chance to see it there on the kickoff or punt return, but I think he does a good job of letting his guys do the work for him. And I also think he does a good job of changing tempo. Like, I think that's a big thing, especially as a punt returner. He's not just full speed. He lets it develop, then turns it on, or just change tempo, change speeds. And I think that sort of translates. And I believe it was a UCLA game, his bowl game, where he had a couple big long returns where he just kind of glided and changed tempo on returns. So I definitely think he has value there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a nice little press in the open field as well. He sees this defender coming inside. He's still pressing that just enough to be able to keep that defender, allow that defender to continue to clearing the angle that he does, and then bounces outside of it and gets positive yards as a result.
Yeah, that was a good job of manipulating him there.
And I think you see from even the small runs we've seen thus far, pad level, tight turns, using the free arm, being patient, and all things that he sets up very well here.
And that's definitely where people will bring up his size in the goal line and goal line fades. He did a good job of getting outside. It was probably an out route, so it was a pretty bad pass.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like that something was misjudged here on the end of the quarterback, in terms of communication with the quarterback and receiver here, or just the throw not being what he was hoping for.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a little late, and supposed to be. It looks like he ran the route flat, so he's expecting an out route. So he got what he wanted. He has outside leverage right here. There's a separation, and then the ball's late and behind him.
Yeah, and this is the point, because you see him stop right here rather than continue on his track, and then watch him stop and then have to basically take another step back, because at this point I would almost guess, I mean, this is just pure speculation, but when I watch this route with him, I'm thinking, as you described, if it's an out route, you're thinking right here, time to just keep breaking towards the sideline. But when he sees the ball's not hitting that way, he almost forgets about this defender, just momentarily thinking, okay, I got to track this ball now because it's going not where I think it is. The attention's on the ball. He backs up a step, which invites the defender inside of his body a little bit more, and then it becomes a contested play. But it's not. I'm not putting that on Lockett. I'm really putting that on the throw, and just him trying to react to the throw and get some sort of position to track it.
Yeah, and judging by the throw, look, the quarterback just goes 1, 2, 3 and kind of steps and lobs like he would anticipate a fade route. Like, that's like a fade, like that body language is like a fade route type, and then Lockett definitely didn't expect that.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of a miscommunication, and you're certainly going to see those on occasion throughout a game. You hopefully, when you're watching players, you don't want to see that on a repeated basis, game after game, 1 to 2 plays a game. That would be something worth noting if you're seeing it that consistently. But once in a while, once every few games, you may get that. Nice burst.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a really good job right there. And that's again, that's where I think you see his discipline, where he could cut back against the grain and try to make 44 look silly. Instead, he just bursts right by him, and then you see a little jab step right there, first down. That's a really good play.
Yeah, and that's part of that mentality you see of a practiced return specialist there too. Just that downhill mentality, knowing how to press and cut to do work downhill, make the most of your moves while you're still moving, forward.
No,
Big,
I agree.
yeah, efficient, just efficient.
If it worked once one way, let's do it again the other way.
Right? And this is a good time, to me, I like this play here because you see a guy who isn't afraid to be aggressive and attack, but he attacks in different ways. We saw the first play of the game where it's in this flat but going the opposite direction, and he turns outside, gets his pads low, and is getting downfield by getting the pads low and going as far as he can under a defender. This time he's going to go over, but he knows he has the sideline here, and I think he knows that he's not going to take a huge hit there. He's risking it, and it's a kind of a dangerous, still a little bit of a dangerous situation, but I think that he's fairly selective about how he risks his body, but he's willing to do so to get yards. There's a recklessness, but it's control, I guess.
That's a good way to put it. And I think he's been consistent with his decision making as a ball carrier, so we know he's not going to cut back and take that shot. So gets out of bounds, gets his yards, and on to the next one.
Yeah. And I think that's important because it's an underrated quality sometimes too when you talk about ball carriers, because you can have guys who are too wild, try to hit the home run too often, like you talked about how that could happen. But also, those guys also, if you play too reckless or you're too indecisive at situations, you can get hurt. And I think that when you have someone who understands how to protect himself, how to pick his spots, but still be aggressive in his play, you're going to have someone who's most likely not going to suffer injury due to decisions of that type of nature. Now, I don't have proof of that. It's anecdotal, but hey, look.
No, it makes perfect sense. Like a little package play here. You got a slant, bubble, or he can keep it.
Yeah. We can get the option pass? Yes, we are. All right. Maybe. Nope. Well, smart play if you didn't see anything open there. But we don't know. But Gronk's little brother, yeah, just decided he wasn't going to throw that one.
Throw it away, Gronk.
Yep. Let's see what happens. Let's see if there was an opportunity here.
Probably some sort of double move. Oh, fakes a stock block and then goes. Yep.
Probably just too far for his range to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And this is a fantastic play given the situation here.
And we see there at the very end where we're talking about him not cutting against the grain. I think right there shows you that he understands the situation and just needs to get that extra yard for the first down. That's a really good play.
Yeah, look at this, folks. This is, they're down 18. They're near the end of the third quarter, 3rd and 17, backed up in their own area. So you're already facing a good bit of off cushion right here on a designed roll. And the fact that he's able to sell the comeback, get back, make this high pointed catch, know he's going to take some contact from it.
Holds on as the defender tries to rake it away from him.
Nice duck under there. And here's the, let me see if I can do it without getting too crazy here. There we go. Again, look at the hips. It's an underrated thing, but the fact that he can just bend a little enough here and keep his base of, kind of keep his base here of balance is going to allow this defender to overrun. And part of that is the hip flexibility. And then once again, you're going to see it in action with this move and just kind of squeeze, get downhill, get what you can, and then have a defender put the camel clutch on him. There we go. Let's see.
If he has poor balance on that play, he falls down and it's 4th and 1.
Yeah. Great point. And that's where I think when you integrate good skills, good athletic skills and body type, this is a thing that I find underrated. I'm looking for flexibility of the hips. That's something that I want to see from ball carriers. I want to see, because it helps them change direction faster, that it makes them more flexible, gives them the ability to make moves like this, but also it helps them drive, because if you have that hip bend and then you can drive with your legs, even a smaller guy is going to drive forward to get a yard or two after contact. If you're stiff-hipped, you see that oftentimes with running backs who are stiff-hipped, where they have a ton of speed, but then they look like they're running into a brick wall because they can't really drive through contact.
Sounds like Ryan Matthews.
or like Darren McFadden to me.
Yeah, because both of these guys are so fast. Like I don't think people remember how fast. That's a good one. McFadden was like a 4.3 guy, if I remember.
Yes.
And there's just the stiff hips, man.
Tevin Coleman is another one of this year's class who I believe has that stiff-hipped Darren McFadden. I've got speed, but how I can apply that how I can transform that into power is problematic. So was there anything to comment about that earlier play that I'm sitting there talking my way through? Let's watch this one more time. All right, so we already got this one. That's me going off on tangents again. So, all right, so now we got him outside.
Come back.
Yeah.
Good separation. He was open.
Yeah. It was a nice play. And see, this is what happens when this is one of the challenges of studying tape hour after hour, is that you start to want to engage in conversation, or you can get on Twitter, or you can do something like that. You got to be careful that you're watching as many details as you can. And what's great about Draft Breakdown, I find, is that a lot of the guys who do this will show plays where they're not getting the ball, but there's still something helpful for you to watch about their game. Just because they're not the focus of the play doesn't mean that you're not getting good information from what they're showing. And so very good work from them.
Yeah, I think that last play just showed consistency at the top of his route.
Yeah.
It's like a little spot or flood action. Sits down.
Yeah, right here. Let's see.
We're going to block here.
This was the block. Yeah, that's right. All right. Here we go.
Looks like there's a sit. Catches it behind him.
and still good. And this is a very small point, but look at the awareness he still has even now. You've seen that awareness at the sideline, so you would expect he's going to have awareness of the first down marker too, because he gets forward progress here, but he knows it's close. I mean, I don't know if he knows how close it is, because that's very hard to say. But he knows as he's getting wrapped, he's getting pulled backwards, and he's getting pulled onto the defender. And watch at the end here where he extends over just at the end. It may be inconsequential to this play, but he's thinking until the end of the play that he's got to get that ball as far forward as he can, and he's not just giving up on it. And it's little things like that that can make a big difference at the end of a ball game or the end of a half, or to keep a drive alive.
Or just 3rd and 1, 1st and 10.
Yeah.
Sold the slant, gave him a stutter.
Yeah.
Really good head fake.
Yeah. And really nice variation of the pace with how he's moving it too. I mean,
yeah, that's where we talk about tempo.
Yeah. Just what you brought up. It's a perfect example of what you brought up. Boom. Left him flat-footed. By the time he turns his hips, 2 to 3 steps of separation at least. Now, it stinks. The ball's thrown in a way that he has to wait for it and come back to it.
So right here, would you prefer him to use his hands, considering his frame, and go get it, or do you want him to, kind of let the ball come to him and kind of roll his shoulders over and protect himself so he can hold on to the ball?
It's a great question. I mean, based on my limited experience, what I look at is I try and look at the NFL game in a situation like that and ask myself, what would some players do who are in these situations here? And I often see guys who are high pointing at this stage, but they're also often facing a guy where they don't have this kind of separation. So if they were facing this guy and the defender was right here, like right on top of his shoulder where I'm pointing the cursor, then I want to see Lockett playing in a situation that we've seen Kevin White do against, I believe, Alabama early this year, where he's putting he's got his arms over the shoulders already before he's even going to reach up and catch, so that there's a chance for him to be able to high point this ball. But on a situation like this one, I don't see very often. Like here, you could see maybe some anticipation where I would like to see him attack it and turn away. But then it does become a more difficult catch if he's hit and falls down, where he's just falling and not able to brace. He's not going to be able to brace it as well. So that doesn't really answer your question, does it at all? So I'm hedging that one, and admittedly so. I would say let's look at one more time. It's a great question.
Is this one of the few plays where you just care about the result because he's in the end zone?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it too is what was his intent here and what was he expecting. Like this route, I'm going to look at it as based on how the route was supposed to go, and how the route's supposed to go is the ball's supposed to lead him. So I still think he's running the route as if it's supposed to lead him. And as the case, if it's going to lead him, it's going to go like my cursor's showing here, just over his head, and he's going to catch it the way he caught it here. So he's still operating in that context. So even though he's having to turn back here, I would love to see him high point this. But then you can see how his body's still not fully turned around to embrace that. He's thinking, well, maybe I can continue down a little bit more and catch it like that. So while I would love to see him adjust and say it's a brave new world and we're not running this route anymore, I do understand that his mindset is still stuck on the idea of the ball's supposed to go over my shoulder, and I've practiced this catch going over my shoulder. I've practiced this route this way. It just didn't work out. So it worked. I wouldn't ding him for this based on this particular situation, but it does raise questions like I would want to see more plays and see where he is in context where he does attack the ball and where it's a clear-cut situation where he should attack it and whether he does or not. How about you? I mean, what do you think on this?
I don't know. Here's what I think. Right as he's going to catch it, like first of all, at the top of the break, he's definitely expecting the ball to be like at the pylon, and he just kind of cruise controls for a touchdown. So, that's what I would expect too, because he had his man beat. It was a really good route. But as he's going up for the pass, I think you kind of do want him to go get it, because as the DB puts up his left hand right there, like if the ball hits his left hand, he doesn't catch that pass.
No. And if he's got his arms extended, he's going to catch the ball around the arm and still be able to turn away. Hopefully, he can control the ball more, either extending it or somehow bringing it away if he wants to bring it down on the arm, which I wouldn't recommend. But he still has options that way.
Yeah,
he limited his options to one option here, which is either the ball gets through and I catch it, or it doesn't get through.
No, that's a good point.
No, that was a really fun problem to kind of talk our way through here. Thank you for asking that. That's a really good question. My first inclination would be to attack. I'm always big on attacking rather than being passive, but I always don't want to be too hard on a guy in a situation where he's having to adjust something that may not be the way it was supposed to go. But at the same time, that's what makes really good NFL players, is the ability to adjust to situations that don't always go as planned.
Exactly. So we got another curl flat here. I feel like I've heard you, maybe you and Bloom talk about this, about where he catches it. He's past the first down. I was going to say, if he, 2nd and 1 or 1st and 10, you care that he went down instead of fighting for extra yards.
Yeah,
wasn't protecting himself from that big hit. I just see the linebacker or safety come over top of him. Looks like he was going to lay the wood on him pretty good there.
Yeah, like to me, I'm okay with this because it's like, look, it's 1st and 10. You just got 9 yards at the least. If you can't make a 2nd and 1 in this situation with the amount of time left, then I'm sure Bill Snyder's not going to blame the game on you for getting you into a 2nd and 1 with 9:40 left and 12-point deficit.
Yeah, that play right there reminded me of like 80% of Marvin Harrison's catches.
Right? Yeah. But the nice thing about Marvin Harrison is in that 20%, if he had to, he'd try.
Oh yeah.
He would try.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like the second good high point we've seen from him, at least. I think we've seen at least 2 or 3 today.
I think it's impressive that it's 3rd and 15. Everybody knows you're going to get the ball, and you still are able to come up with a play. So.
Yeah, and look at how much he has to arch his back to get on top of this ball here. Anyway, I mean, this ball's almost past his window.
Yeah. I'm just imagining myself trying to jump for that, and like, nope, no chance I'm able to bend backwards like that.
I just wish I could jump anymore.
That's a hell of a play by Lockett.
I can still catch. I can't jump, but there we go.
Yeah, that's a big play.
Yes, it is. Get an even nicer view of this, hopefully.
So it's a 2-deep zone.
And look at him. He breaks inside, anticipates where the ball's going to go a little bit.
The
quarterback doesn't throw it there, though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It almost seemed like he was trying to find a window for the quarterback. like as he's trying to work his way, he works his way inside to the right shoulder of the corner to try to give Waters a window here.
Yeah, and then Waters sees this defender screaming down and says, "Screw it, I'm just chucking it right now." You know,
Yeah.
like right here, he's coming in. Lockett's coming in, like you said, to give that window, which again is a deft route running, trying to work with his passer, and his passer's like, "I don't want to get hit here. I'm just throwing it. Now's the time." And Lockett's like, "Oh," it makes a beautiful play.
Yeah. Did he try to get out of bounds to stop the clock,
Let's see.
or is he just falling?
Well, let's look at it one more time here.
I think he just tough to tell.
It is tough to tell. It does kind of look like I mean, I would give him the benefit of the doubt based on the pattern of behavior we've seen thus far. I would say he was trying to get out of bounds.
That's a really nice catch.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't have, and the other thing is it's because we've seen him, again, now he's climbing it he's getting it with his fingertips and trying to pull it in with his fingertips here. And there's still a little bit of air between the fingers and the ball as he brings it down. This is like the second catch we've seen him do this. I think because of the fact that he probably didn't have full confidence that he had full control of the ball until about right here, and it was still like let's see if I can freeze it at that very last point, where it's at his hip. He may not feel comfortable right here trying to extend the ball. You know what I'm saying? And if he's not, then he probably was like, you know what, I'm going to lean out of bounds, and if I can get the ball out of bounds, great, but I'm not extending it there. And you can see it like right, let's see, one right here. Maybe not fully comfortable, but he's got, yeah, because it almost looks like he's like, I don't know, the way that he's holding that ball almost looks like I'm trying not to get out. I'm trying to get out, but I'm not trying. I wanted to extend it, but I didn't feel quite confident yet.
Yeah, I didn't have control enough.
Yeah. So definitely a fun watch. Based on what you've seen from him, thus far, what were things that you particularly feel like make him a good fit in the NFL as a receiver?
Well, he's comfortable against different types of coverages. Like as we saw out of that last play against the zone, he found a window against. We saw another deep corner. He's able to avoid contact at the first level. We saw him as a ball carrier. He has the burst to run away from these second level defenders, which is pretty important. He braces himself on contact. The body catches, I don't like. I really don't. But at the same time, he's not dropping that. Like these aren't drops either. So I think his ability to just create separation at the top of his route is really going to stand out. I don't see why that would change based off of how he's consistently doing it. Hopefully, I guess I wish I would have saw him against press coverage because if I remember correctly, that's something that he excels at too. So just all the traits, what he does good translates to the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of nuance to his game that's smart that you see from players who play at that high of a level, especially as a ball carrier and after the catch. His awareness of the field is very strong. I do like that he can high point and make tough plays like this. He doesn't seem to be afraid of contact, and that's a very important aspect of playing the game. And then, yeah, I am a little concerned about certain things in terms of how his hands are going to work out with making some of these plays if he's dealing with tight physical coverage and if he can hang on to a ball where he's really getting licked on a play where he has to high point like that. But then again, it's the type of thing that you're not going up for a high pointing a ball on every play in the NFL like that.
Exactly.
So it's not something that you want to blow too out of proportion. Maybe it separates him from being the next Antonio Brown primary X receiver for a club that runs an offense like the Steelers, and him being more of a secondary guy or a third or fourth option in an offense who can do even more than what Harry Douglas does, for instance, with the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe you get a guy who is, who can be that contributor in a way that T.Y. Hilton is a contributor for, for the Indianapolis Colts, but you may not get that consistent, you may not get that consistent in tight coverage, taking the hard shot type of play, but you're going to get him making plays downfield, getting yards after the catch, still being able to find holes in zones and make athletic plays on less than perfect throws. Because that's what's very important about what you mentioned too, Kyles. I mean, if he gets open in zones and he's in open windows like this, and the quarterback doesn't have to throw it perfectly, but he can still make the play without having to, and it doesn't have to come to dealing with contact, but it's still a difficult catch, that's still quite valuable, So, yeah, I like it. I agree, with the, we would want to see more on film, when it comes to press coverage, and we didn't get a chance to see it with this particular game, but, I certainly think that Lockett is a nice prospect, and the team is going to be excited about picking him somewhere in the draft. I would think it would be, if I'm being conservative about it, and I'm not one of these guys who claims to know anything about draft position and where they would go, but would you agree with me that he's probably a second day pick, somewhere in that range, or
Yeah, no,
a pretty early third day guy?
I would imagine him to go on day 2. I don't think he has to blow up the combine. I just think he has to have, sort of like a quote unquote safe performance there to kind of cement him based off what he's shown on film to be a day 2 kind of guy. I also think how you were describing, T.Y. Hilton and Harry Douglas, I think it's important to remember that those guys are important for offenses. Like you're going to find role players, and when we're watching all these receivers or, anybody, running back, tight end, DB, linebacker, whatever, you need role players on offense. Like everybody's not going to be the next Odell Beckham, so
right.
You just need those secondary options for your quarterback.
Yeah, not everyone's going to be a star, and really,
yeah.
That's the whole point. And you're not really looking for a room full of stars. If you can get it and they all can work together, then oh yeah, that's awesome. But really, sometimes being a star is being that great role player. You think about those teams that you grew up watching, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, and we've all had players that were among our favorites who weren't stars. But you loved them because you saw them make plays when they were put in position to do so that were very important to the success of your team, and you were always fond of seeing that player because you remember those types of plays. And Tyler Lockett might end up being that kind of guy, but certainly it takes a high level of skill to be that kind of guy. So what we saw was very important, especially the low catches of low throws, the flexibility of the hips. I think this was a very educational, session for that you put on for us, Kyle. I mean, just from the questions that were asked to looking at physical skills to when should we really nitpick a detail to when we should keep it in perspective. So I really appreciate you coming on. I hope that this was something that you want to do with us again, and thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. No, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the questions too. I just think it's so. That's why I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy these interactions and just talking to guys of how I can watch Lockett run a curl route and be like, wow, there's no way he should be doing this. You can watch a curl route and think that was a great play, and then on the very next play, we'll agree, and on the play after that, we can be questioning each other again. I just think it's so important I do think it's important to pick other guys' brains like that.
Yeah,
you learn so much from that.
It's one of my favorite. My favorite reasons I knew I wanted to have you on is because I knew I've seen you make a lot of great points about wide receivers in the past, and I remember last year I was really high on Paul Richardson, and you were very critical about a lot of things about Paul Richardson, and I understand that, and it made sense, and I think that I remember making note of that because I liked the commentary that you had in the debate that that we kind of had on Twitter, a little bit about it back and forth with it, and it's a good opportunity for us to be able to learn from each other. I've certainly learned from you. I've certainly enjoyed, the commentary that you put up and the work that you do. And I would encourage everybody that if this is your first time getting a chance to see Kyle or see any of Kyle's work or insights on the game, definitely go check out his work. Kyle, if you can give everybody your Twitter handle and then so that they can see more of your links, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's at @the_KP_show.
All right. There you have it, folks. So for Kyle Posey, I'm Matt Waldman. And Dad, I don't know if you can see it, but in the back corner here for my birthday, he got me this really nice display case of mini helmets of all 32 NFL teams. So, yeah, it's up. I know that it's not in like a great location for this camera, but I didn't hang it yet. So we'll see what we're going to do. But thanks again, Pops. So thanks again, everybody, and you guys have a good day and good weekend.